Now, I have had a very frustrating day, but I really want to talk about something that's really cheered me up this week. White box. The great thing about Amazon is that when you see a book on there, oftentimes you can click on it and see what's inside. And I clicked on this, and the artwork is so nice. There's true, black and white line drawing style. I think it's mostly one artist right the way through. If we look at the front credits here, William McCausland, and James V. West made the character sheet, which is this one in this version, and the art throughout is really nice. It's just great to have a really consistent style. Just brilliant stuff. And this is, some of you may know, based on, well, it's actually an update of a Swords and Wizardry white box version, but it's based on the very earliest iterations of Dungeons and Dragons, the original version and so on, with additional optional rules for updating it. Certain things, if you want, you can have ascending armor class if you like, that kind of thing. And one of the things which harks back to the very early versions is that all the damage is or can be rolled on a d6 from every weapon, but there are rules for if you have a two-handed sword you can have +1. If you have a dagger you can put -1 to the d6. Every hit die is a d6, and fighters get a +1. That kind of thing. Most of the dice actually are d6s, apart from obviously in combat you roll a d20, and some of the tables at the end use like a d10 or something like that. Here's a d20 table, more d20 tables for the magical weapons. There's a d8 table, and there's a d100 table, and so it just use the dice, but mainly in the gameplay it is a d20 for combat and d6s for most of the things. Now, one of the wonderfully cool things I want to mention before I move on is that there are rules in here for its own deck of many things using an ordinary deck of cards, or to be exact, the face cards, the aces, and one joker. So your players could draw a card from the deck of many things, and it's the Queen of Diamonds, which would mean gain a scroll of 7 spells, all 2nd level or higher. And there are similarly other cool results for those cards, which I just think it's a really neat little idea to be able to use a common deck of cards for something that cool. Now, character creation is very simple, as you might expect from an OSR game, but it's interesting that the demi-human races can also have classes, so that you basically get your demi-human abilities and stuff, and extra restrictions or bonuses sort of tacked onto a class, which is kind of neat. But anyway, you basically are advised to roll your 3d6s down the line here, or it says you can roll 3d6 6 times and apply them to wherever you want to create the kind of character you want. So let's just go down the line. 10, 11 strength, and dexterity is, oh my gosh, that's 4. That's horrendous. We're not going to be a thief, are we? It's lucky that the thief is still an optional class at this point. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are not lucky dice. And 6, 7, 10 for our intelligence. 8, 9 for our wisdom. We are terrible. Still looking like a fighter though, with 11 strength. Oops. And 7, 8, 9. So that is what we can call a truly average character. Now, as you can see, our bonuses and restrictions, let's say, are a little bit more simple than basic D&D and other OSR games. So 3 to 6 you got -1, 7 to 14 you are average, 15 plus you are +1. I don't think we have to worry about the +1 because all of our traits apart from dexterity are average, and with dexterity we get a -1. So we are definitely not a thief. So basically what I'm talking about with demi-humans is that here, for instance, it says the dwarf can choose between 2 classes, the fighter or the thief, if used, and they are typically allowed to advance as high as 6th level. So there are limits in the rules as written for demi-humans, as there are in the original game, and the dwarves get their bonuses, but their hit points and other stuff still follow the fighter or the thief, whichever they choose. Like elves, on the other hand, can choose from day to day between a fighter orientated elf and a magician orientated elf or magic user, or you can follow the fighter magic user option. So you have that choice with the elf. And with halflings you can choose between a fighter or a thief. So you sort of get the class bonus, but you also get certain restrictions and your racial bonuses from your halfling, elf or dwarf. And hit dice are rolled on a d6. So for a fighter at first level you get 1d6 plus 1. So you get 3 in that case. And for your magic user you get 1 hit dice. I'm sorry, I've gone out of focus. So the classic 1. And at level 2 you get 1 hit dice plus 1. At level 3 you get 2 hit dice. Level 4, so level 3 you get 2 hit dice. Level 4 you get 2 hit dice plus 1. And so they're not quite as weak, the magic users, as the original game. Thieves here get 1 hit dice at level 1, 2 at level 2, 3 at level 3. At level 4 you get 3 plus 1. So that's how it all builds up. So basically you've rolled 1 die, at level 2 you roll another die, level 3 you roll another die, and then you plus 1, you add 1 to your hit die, and then you roll another die, and then you roll another die to build it up slowly throughout the levels. And the characters all go to 10th level, apart from the demi-humans who don't. The elf, for instance, goes to level 8. Now these saving throws follow a similar method to the original game, or you can have a single saving throw number. So that's your choice. But you get a bonus with these, with your class sometimes, and if you use these then you don't get that bonus, because it was to unbalance the game maybe. And you get a nice selection of spells and magic. I'm really sorry I'm going out of focus. It's quite dark tonight. You know, you think, oh well, I'll get an environmentally friendly light bulb, and then you realise that you can't see anything because it's so dark. Now, good selection of spells here in this very tiny book. I was expecting it to be like an A4 size, like Swords and Wizardry or Basic Fantasy, but this tiny thing arrived and I thought, oh, that's different. But yeah, a sort of digest size. So plenty of spells. The rules are really well explained. I read it on the way to work. You know, this whole thing. It's really nicely written and really simple to understand. You can use ascending armor class or descending armor class, whichever you prefer. And you have a nice selection of monsters and all these treasure options here, where it talks about in this game, it talks about experience being not necessarily the payment for treasure, but the fact that you can uncover lots of treasure shows how experienced you are. So it sort of explains it like that, really, and it does sort of give you a difficulty rating for the monsters, so you can choose what to throw at your player characters. There's some nice treasure tables here. You get your usual equipment charts that you would expect, and there are some really good. Well, these magic items are great, but you also get some really good encounter charts, which I'm going to try and find. Here we are. When you are putting a dungeon together, it gives you lots of information about that. You get reaction checks for your monsters, and the chance of getting lost in the wilderness, how many encounters you might get. And you get encounter tables as well as movement options. You have the encounter tables here, movement options. You know what I mean, movement rates for different terrain and so forth. And plenty of monster tables to roll on. With your D12 and your D10 and your D6. So some nice random tables, and just thoroughly well written, well explained, well laid out, well illustrated, well proofread, which is a rarity in these days, but a really nicely put together book. And the brilliant thing is, the PDF is absolutely free. You can buy the book in the UK for £5, in the US probably roughly similar, but the PDF itself, absolutely free. Most of the time you're using D6s, except D20s for combat and some other dice for some of the tables. This version, I absolutely love it. It's great. You know, while we're at it, let's finish off our character. Let's make him a fighter. Let's give him 1d6 plus 1 hit points. Oh my god, he's got 2 hit points. Well, you know, one thing later versions of Dungeons and Dragons sorted out was the serious lack of hit points. So we start with 2 here. I'm probably not going to do a playthrough with this guy because it wouldn't last very long. But you have your usual roll 3d6, times it by 10 to look through your equipment chart and buy whatever you like. Here we go. Here's all your equipment, all the usual suspects. Some iron spikes, I hope. I'll be lost without those. In my first game of Dungeons and Dragons, I threw an iron spike at a kobold who was swinging from a chandelier and killed him, and I've remembered that to this very day. Now, all the weapons here, you've got your D6, either +1 or -1, or you can use the traditional method of 1d6 for every single weapon, and that applies to every single monster as well. 1d6 damage, or in this case 2d6, but such a fun little game. You know, I'd really like to run. I haven't run a game in ages, although I've been playing Dungeon Crawl Classics and 5th edition. I haven't run a game for years. So, and if I did, I'd like to think it'd be something nice and straightforward like this, and something so gorgeously illustrated as well. I mean, Charlie Mason did a fantastic job in making this really, really lovely little role-playing game. Really great fun. I might do some a gameplay playthrough type thing of this in the future, because it's such a cool little game. I really enjoyed reading it. I mean, these character sheets look great. You know, you can download those for free and buy this for about £5 or a similar amount of dollars, I'd imagine, or download the book for free. You know, a brilliant little OSR game and so simple to read straight through. I have a terrible tendency to start skimming rules, but this, I didn't need to. I just read the whole thing. Absolutely brilliant. Lovely little book. Thank you very much for watching. This is just a short video to share my enthusiasm for White Box fantastic medieval adventure game.